Let's be honest. We all have that little voice in our head that whispers, "You could sue for that." Most of us ignore it, but this video is about the glorious few who didn't. Get ready for 101 people who heard that whisper and said, "Hold my beer." 1. $832 million. That was the price tag one man put on his face because he thought he looked too much like Michael Jordan. He sued both the basketball legend and Nike, claiming the constant mistaken identity caused him immense emotional distress. The court essentially told him to get a grip, and he walked away with $0 and, presumably, still looking like himself. 2. Have you ever felt personally victimized by an 11-inch foot-long sandwich? A group of Subway customers certainly did, launching a class-action lawsuit over that missing inch of bread. But here's the kicker. After all the legal battles, the lawyers pocketed over $500,000, while the actual customers who started the whole thing received absolutely nothing. Not even a free cookie. 3. Cruel and unusual punishment can take many forms. For one inmate in Virginia, it was having to watch reality TV in the common room. He sued the prison for mental torture after being forced to sit through hours of keeping up with the Kardashians, claiming it caused emotional distress and lasting trauma. The court ruled he could simply change the channel. 4. Imagine being the court clerk who has to process a lawsuit filed against Satan. A man in Pennsylvania did just that, accusing the devil himself of ruining his life with various misfortunes. The judge ultimately had to dismiss the case, not because it was insane, but on a technicality. The court had no way to serve Satan his legal papers. Guess the Prince of Darkness has a good lawyer. 5. The one lawsuit that literally killed the magic. A man volunteered for a David Copperfield illusion and later sued, claiming he got injured in the secret passages used for the trick. The legal battle forced Copperfield to reveal the entire secret on the record in court. So thanks to one guy, we all now know how it's done. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was getting a lawyer. 6. Here's a novel way to deal with a bad day. Sue the weatherman. An Israeli tourist in the US sued a local TV station after their sunny forecast turned out to be wrong, and she got caught in the rain. She claimed the dampness caused her to catch the flu and demanded $100,000 for her troubles. Has anyone tried this? I'm asking for a friend who's tired of surprise drizzle. 7. Your haunted house is not scary enough and I want my money back. That was the core of a lawsuit filed by a California couple against a theme park. They accused the park of false advertising because the animatronic ghouls were, in their expert opinion, lame. It's one thing to sue for being too scared, but suing for not being scared enough. That's a new level of entitlement. 8. I have some bad news for your inner child. The berries in Cap'n Crunch aren't real fruit. I know, shocking. One woman in California was so betrayed by this revelation that she actually sued Quaker Oats. The judge basically laughed it out of court, stating that no reasonable adult would believe a cereal with a cartoon captain on the box was a health food. 9. What's the price of a single paper napkin? According to one woman at a McDonald's, it's $1.5 million. After arguing with a manager over getting an extra one, she filed a massive lawsuit for the emotional distress it caused. Let's be real. Would you sue over a napkin? For $1.5 million, some people might be tempted. 10. Your ads promised me beautiful women on a beach, and all I got was this lousy beer. That was the gist of a lawsuit a man filed against Anheuser-Busch. He claimed their commercials were false advertising because, after drinking their product, his life didn't magically transform into a party scene. His case was dismissed, proving once and for all that a six-pack is not a substitute for a personality. 11. It turns out there's a real city in Turkey named Batman. And in 2008, the mayor decided to sue Warner Brothers and Christopher Nolan for using their city's name in The Dark Knight without permission. They demanded royalties. You have to wonder if they also tried suing the guy who invented bats. 12. A Florida woman ordered a quarter pounder with cheese and received no cheese. This wasn't just an inconvenience, it was, in her eyes, a federal case. She filed a $5 million class action lawsuit against McDonald's for this cheesy betrayal, citing breach of contract. All for a slice of processed American dairy product that costs about 30 cents. 13. An inmate in Arizona filed a lawsuit claiming his prison-issued mattress was so thin it violated his constitutional rights. He said sleeping on it amounted to cruel and unusual punishment and demanded damages. The judge, unimpressed, ruled that prison is not a luxury hotel and dismissed the case without much cushioning. 14. This might be the most meta lawsuit in music history. John Fogerty, the legendary voice of Creedence Clearwater Revival, was sued by his old record label for sounding too much like John Fogerty. They claimed his new solo music was a copyright infringement of his old CCR sound. He literally had to bring his guitar to court to prove that's just how he sings. 15. Here's a quick PSA. Don't use a lighter to light another lighter. A man learned this the hard way when one exploded in his pocket. But instead of blaming physics, he sued the Bic lighter company for making a defective product. The case was quickly extinguished. 16. Remember the agony of trying to cancel an AOL subscription back in the day? It felt like trying to escape a cult. Well, it was so notoriously difficult that the company was hit with a massive class action lawsuit for intentionally trapping its customers in a digital prison of dial-up tones and "you've got mail" notifications. 17. After a drunk driver crashed into a phone booth, the man trapped inside decided to sue. But he didn't sue the drunk driver. No, that would make too much sense. He sued the phone booth company, arguing the booth was defectively designed because it couldn't withstand the impact of a car. 18. A woman in San Diego sued her neighbor because their parrot had a serious potty mouth. She claimed the bird's constant stream of curse words was creating a hostile living environment. The parrot was not called to the stand to testify, but it does make you wonder. At what point is a pet's bad behavior a legal issue? 19. A man once filed a lawsuit against Taco Bell, claiming their seasoned beef mixture was only 35% actual beef. The fast food giant responded with a massive PR campaign to prove him wrong, and the man quietly dropped the suit, basically admitting he made the whole thing up. So much for thinking outside the bun. 20. The entire purpose of a horror movie is to be scary. But one man sued the creators of the Blair Witch Project for false advertising. His reason? He claimed the film was so terrifying that it caused him lasting psychological trauma. In other words, he was suing the movie for successfully doing its job. 21. A $5 million lawsuit was once filed against Starbucks. The shocking crime? Putting too much ice in their iced coffee. The plaintiff meticulously argued that a venti iced coffee was half ice, therefore deceiving customers. The judge dismissed it, pointing out the obvious fact that ice is a primary and expected ingredient in a drink with iced in its name. 22. A man sued his neighbor over their Christmas lights, not because they were too bright or tacky, but because the neighbor left them up until April. He argued the prolonged and unseasonal holiday cheer constituted an aesthetic nuisance. Imagine trying to explain that to a judge with a straight face. 23. Here's a brilliant legal strategy. A man sued a convenience store for selling him a losing lottery ticket. His argument wasn't that the ticket was misprinted. His argument was that the store should have known it wasn't a winner before selling it to him. The case was dismissed faster than you can say, "That's not how gambling works." 24. And now for our next legal genius. An inmate in Oregon sued the Hindu gods Shiva and Brahma. His claim? The deities had broken a promise to protect him from getting arrested. He demanded a legal restraining order to prevent them from interfering with his life ever again. 25. A judge in Washington, D.C. took his dry cleaner to court over a lost pair of pants. But he wasn't asking for the $100 to replace them. No, he sued them for a staggering $54 million. He calculated this figure based on emotional suffering and the cost of having to drive to a different dry cleaner. The case became the national poster child for outrageous lawsuits. 26. Getting locked inside a house you're trying to rob must be pretty embarrassing. But for one California burglar, it became a business opportunity. After getting trapped in the homeowner's garage for 8 days, surviving on a case of Pepsi, he sued the homeowner for false imprisonment. The homeowner, in a brilliant move, countersued for trespassing. 27. Famous psychic Uri Geller, the guy who bends spoons with his mind, was once taken to task in court. A man claimed that during a TV appearance, Geller should have used his psychic powers to stop an object from hitting him. He wasn't blaming the person who threw it. He was blaming the psychic for not being psychic enough to intervene. Geller's powers apparently don't include deflecting blame. 28. Ever felt like TV was rotting your brain? One man took it literally. He filed a claim against the creators of The Simpsons, arguing that the show's flashy opening sequence induced a seizure. He wasn't laughing at Homer's antics. He was trying to get paid for them. It gives a whole new meaning to the phrase, "Don't have a cow, man." 29. A student at a New York university received a C+ in one of her classes. Instead of hitting the books, she hit up a lawyer. She demanded the grade be changed to an A, claiming the C+ cost her a potential $1 million job offer. $1 million for one grade. Maybe the real lesson she needed was in basic economics. 30. That squeaky office chair you've been meaning to fix? For one man, it was a multi-million-dollar nightmare. He claimed the persistent squeak drove him to the brink of insanity and sued the manufacturer for irreparable mental anguish. The court disagreed, ruling that justice doesn't squeak. 31. A man once heated a can of Chef Boyardee ravioli directly on his stove, and shockingly, it exploded. He suffered some burns and decided someone had to pay. He went after the company, claiming the can should have had a warning label explicitly telling him not to heat an unopened metal can on a direct flame. Common sense, it seems, is not included. 32. An airline pilot, trying to be helpful, made up for a flight delay by flying a bit faster and landing on time. But one passenger wasn't grateful. She demanded compensation from the airline for the anxiety and distress caused by the increased speed. She was literally complaining about efficient service. What do you even say to that? 33. This one is painfully awkward. A woman actually took a man to court over a bad kiss after a date. She filed a formal complaint seeking damages for the unsolicited and offensive smooch that caused her emotional trauma. Safe to say, the first date did not lead to a second. 34. A grown man collected a nice settlement from a theme park after claiming their roller coaster was just too scary. He argued the ride caused him to scream uncontrollably and left him in a state of shock. He was essentially paid a handsome sum for having the exact experience the ride was designed to provide. 35. This story is a wild ride from start to finish. A man in China sued his wife for being ugly after she gave birth to what he called an incredibly ugly baby. He accused her of cheating, but she confessed the truth. She had spent over $100,000 on plastic surgery before they met. He sued for fraud and won. 36. A man was so enraged over a bad haircut that he didn't just storm out. He sued the barber. He claimed the uneven fade and awkward conversation left him emotionally disfigured and unable to socialize. The judge ruled the cut wasn't great, but also wasn't criminal. 37. After blindly following their GPS, a couple drove their car directly onto active railroad tracks, where it got stuck and was promptly hit by a train. They survived, and then did what any rational person would do. They sued Google. They argued the Maps app provided fatally flawed directions. Because looking out the windshield is just a suggestion, apparently. 38. A woman in Michigan tried to take a man she met online to court for breach of promise. His crime wasn't standing her up or stealing from her. His crime was that he had claimed to be handsome in his profile, and in her opinion, he was not. The court had to gently inform her that being unattractive is not, in fact, illegal. 39. In Chicago, a city bus driver filed for disability benefits because she developed a crippling fear of squirrels. After one darted in front of her bus, she claimed the trauma left her with post-traumatic stress disorder that made her unable to drive. She insisted she was owed compensation for her serophobia. 40. And just when you think you've heard it all, a man tried to sue himself. After crashing his car, he filed a claim against his own insurance policy, acting as both the plaintiff and the defendant. He argued that he had negligently hit himself, and therefore he owed himself damages. Unsurprisingly, the insurance company was not amused. 41. Ever looked at a running lawnmower and thought, you know, this would make a great hedge trimmer? One man did. After predictably injuring himself, he dragged the manufacturer to court, insisting the user manual never explicitly warned against such a spectacularly bad idea. The chapter on basic survival instincts was apparently sold separately. 42. A diner's 5-alarm chili lived up to its name a little too well for one customer. After one fiery bite, he didn't just reach for water, he called for an ambulance. He then demanded the restaurant pay for his oral injuries, turning a spicy meal into a sizzling legal mess. Some like it hot, but this guy wanted his chili served with a side of cold, hard cash. 43. In the grand scheme of prison grievances, this one is a masterpiece. An inmate in Florida filed a formal complaint because his dessert, an ice cream bar, was served to him melted. He called it a violation of his constitutional right to a frozen treat. You have to admire the sheer audacity of fighting for your right to avoid ice cream soup. 44. During a magic show, a man's watch was made to disappear. When the magician couldn't bring it back, the volunteer didn't just get angry, he got a lawyer. He sued not just for the watch, but for the emotional trauma of believing it was gone forever. It was less abracadabra and more see you in arbitration. 45. Here's a hot tip. Sitting in front of a giant reflective panel to maximize your tan is a terrible idea. One man discovered this after getting severe burns, but instead of blaming the sun, he blamed the suntan lotion company. His winning argument? The bottle didn't specifically warn against extreme solar amplification. 46. For one New Yorker, a neighbor's yapping dog wasn't just annoying, it was a $2 million creativity killer. He actually took the owner to court, claiming the incessant barking prevented him from finishing his masterpiece screenplay. You have to wonder if the dog was just giving its honest review of the script. 47. A guaranteed-to-return boomerang didn't. Instead of accepting defeat, an Australian man demanded his money back from the toy company. He was essentially suing an inanimate object for its flagrant disregard of marketing slogans and the basic laws of physics. 48. One woman's quest for love on Match.com ended not with a soulmate, but with a lawsuit. She took the company to court, accusing them of fraud because her dates were duds, and the site was allegedly full of fake profiles. She wasn't just looking for love, she was looking for a legally binding romance guarantee. 49. A woman illegally parked in front of a fire hydrant. When firefighters had to smash her windows to run the hose through, she didn't apologize. She sued them for property damage. She broke the law, impeded an emergency, and then had the gall to demand compensation. The audacity is almost impressive. 50. We've all felt the soul-crushing despair of assembling IKEA furniture. But one man channeled his rage into legal action. He dragged IKEA to court because the instructions for his bookshelf were too confusing and caused him mental anguish. He wasn't claiming the product was defective, he was claiming it was too Swedish. 51. Here's a bold criminal strategy. After robbing a store, a man dropped his wallet containing his driver's license. When the police inevitably found him, he didn't confess. He tried to sue the store owner for stealing his wallet. His defense was to play the victim. Spoiler alert, the jury wasn't buying it. 52. Pecked by a goose and thoroughly humiliated, one park goer decided someone had to pay. He sued the city for negligence, claiming they allowed a known aggressive waterfowl to roam free and terrorize the public. He sought compensation for his pecked ankles and his deeply wounded pride. 53. The profound disappointment of a hollow Easter bunny became a federal case for one father. He filed a complaint against a candy company for deceptive practices, arguing the large box misled him. It was a classic tale of shattered expectations. Nothing says Happy Easter quite like hollow chocolate and a hollow lawsuit. 54. In a story that has become a legend of American stupidity, a man bought a new RV, set the cruise control on the highway, and calmly walked to the back to make a sandwich. After the inevitable crash, he successfully sued the manufacturer for not explicitly stating in the manual that cruise control isn't a substitute for a driver. 55. At a Kansas City Royals game, the mascot Slugger launched a foil-wrapped hot dog into the stands. A fan took it directly to the eye, suffering a detached retina. He sued the team and, unbelievably, won. The court ruled that getting hit by flying meat isn't an inherent risk of baseball. What's weirder, the lawsuit, or that a hot dog projectile is now a legal precedent? 56. That perfect inch of foam on a beer is an art form. But for one man, it was a declaration of war. He took a bar to court, demanding damages because his glass was half foam, half disappointment. He claimed false advertising on the pint he ordered. The judge apparently was not thirsty for his arguments. 57. After sitting on a public park bench for 10 minutes, a woman decided the experience was so unbearable she had to sue. She claimed the bench's splinters and awkward slope caused spinal torment and ruined her day. The judge recommended she stand next time and dismissed her claim. 58. You go to a rock concert expecting loud music, right? Well, one fan felt the band took it too far. He dragged the musicians to court for acoustic assault, claiming their performance caused him hearing damage. It's a rock show, my dude. What did you expect? A library reading group? 59. The listing on eBay clearly advertised a genuinely haunted antique doll. One buyer was thrilled until the doll arrived and did absolutely nothing. No spooky noises, no moving on its own. So she sued the seller for false advertising, demanding a refund because her paranormal purchase was disappointingly normal. 60. In a spectacular moment of self-sabotage, a janitor slipped on a wet floor he had just mopped. He then sued his employer for not putting up a wet floor sign for himself. Yatori. 61. The Japanese studio that created Godzilla once went to war with an American winery. The crime? The winery released a new Cabernet named Godzilla. The studio sent a cease and desist, arguing a wine couldn't possibly live up to the destructive legacy of their monster. To be fair, they weren't wrong. 62. Riding a roller coaster to pass a kidney stone sounds like a medical myth. But after a few people claimed it worked on Disney's Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, one man decided to try it. When the ride failed to dislodge his stone, he threatened to sue Disney for the ride not being medically effective. Because theme parks are now apparently outpatient clinics. 63. Getting left stranded on a date is bad. Suing the guy for the cab fare home is next-level petty. One woman did just that, taking her date to small claims court because he left her at the restaurant without a ride. She didn't win, but she absolutely made her point in the most public way possible. 64. How many lawyers does it take to change a light bulb? Just one, if he's suing the manufacturer. An attorney filed a claim because changing a bulb in his office was unduly difficult and caused him to miss valuable billable hours. His time was apparently more precious than the invention of electricity itself. 65. A man in California filed a multi-million-dollar claim against a bank. His grievance? The ATM gave him a slightly crumpled $20 bill. He argued it was unfit for commerce and humiliated him at a store. The court ruled that wrinkles don't hurt legal tender. 66. A die-hard football fan was so outraged by a bad call in a crucial playoff game that he didn't just complain online. He filed a formal legal demand to have the final minutes of the game replayed. He essentially wanted a federal judge to step in and act as the world's most powerful instant replay official. 67. A family bought what they were told was a cute, fluffy Bichon Frise puppy. As it grew, and grew, and grew, they realized they'd been sold a giant poodle mix. They took the breeder to court for misrepresenting the dog's future size, claiming they had no room for a deceptively large canine imposter. 68. The finale of Game of Thrones disappointed a lot of people. But one group of fans took it a step further. They consulted lawyers about suing HBO for subverting expectations in a way that destroyed the value of their box sets. Their goal was to force a complete remake of the final season with competent writers. 69. A fortune cookie is supposed to offer wisdom. For one diner, it offered a trip to the dentist. He broke a tooth biting into his cookie and took the restaurant to court for negligence. The restaurant's defense? You're supposed to break it with your hands, not your face. 70. Two brothers, weighing a combined 700 pounds, sued a county jail for $120 million. Their claim? The jail's meal plan was a starvation diet that caused them to lose significant weight against their will. They were literally complaining that prison was making them healthier. 71. Getting a bad hand in poker is part of the game. But one gambler at a Las Vegas casino decided it was a conspiracy. He filed a formal complaint against the casino, accusing the dealer of using psychic powers to deal him losing cards. He wasn't just claiming the game was rigged, he was claiming it was rigged by a mind reader. 72. A woman ordered a salad at a restaurant and was horrified to find a single tiny bug in her lettuce. Instead of just sending it back, she demanded $50,000 in damages. Her claim wasn't about getting sick, it was for the emotional scarring of seeing an insect near her croutons. 73. The slippery when wet sign is a legal staple. But what about slippery when icy? A man slipped on a patch of ice in a parking lot and decided someone had to pay. He didn't take action against the property owner. No, he dragged the local weather station to court for failing to provide an adequate and timely ice warning. 74. A city council once received a bizarre demand from a local resident. He insisted they pass an ordinance banning aliens from landing in his backyard without his express written permission. He was essentially trying to get a legal restraining order against an entire hypothetical civilization from another galaxy. 75. A woman in New Mexico once called 911 because her fast food burger didn't have onions. When the operator told her it wasn't an emergency, she got angry and called back. Twice. She ended up getting arrested, proving that some battles, especially those over condiments, are best not fought. 76. A man was so attached to his old broken-down couch that when his apartment building threw it out, he took them to court. He claimed the couch was a priceless family heirloom and demanded thousands in compensation for its sentimental value. The couch's market value, probably about $5. 77. A self-proclaimed vampire in Texas filed a bizarre complaint against the local blood bank. He claimed their refusal to give him a bag of blood for personal consumption was a violation of his religious freedoms. The blood bank respectfully disagreed, citing health codes and, basic sanity. 78. Ever been so bad at a video game you wanted to blame the controller? One teenager took it a step further. After losing an online tournament, he demanded damages from the console manufacturer, claiming his controller had a microscopic defect that caused him to lose the final match. The defect, it seems, was his skill level. 79. A man once walked into a wall. It happens. But instead of laughing it off, he took legal action against the building's owner. His argument? The wall was painted the exact same color as the surrounding hallway, making it an invisible and dangerous trap. He was basically suing camouflage. 80. Getting caught cheating on an exam is embarrassing. Suing the university for catching you is just plain bold. A college student was expelled after being caught with notes during a final. He dragged the university to court, claiming their overly strict, anti-cheating policies created an environment of anxiety that forced him to cheat. 81. A woman ordered a pizza for delivery. When it arrived, she was furious to find that the pepperoni slices were not perfectly evenly distributed. She filed a complaint with the company's corporate office, demanding a formal apology and a lifetime supply of free pizza to compensate for her aesthetic distress. 82. After a long day of shopping, a man couldn't find his car in the massive mall parking lot. He didn't just wander around looking for it. He called the police and reported it stolen. When they found it exactly where he'd left it, he tried to demand damages from the mall for having a confusingly large and poorly designed parking structure. 83. A man in Florida felt the plot of the movie The Matrix was stolen from him. He filed an $85 million claim against the creators, insisting he was the original one, and they had based the entire trilogy on his life story without his permission. The court, shockingly, did not give him the red pill. 84. After a professional golfer missed a crucial putt during a major tournament, one fan who had bet on him decided it was a breach of contract. He took the golfer to court, demanding his lost bet money back plus damages for professional incompetence. He wanted to hold the athlete legally responsible for his own bad gambling habits. 85. Finally, a woman once took her cat's veterinarian to court. The reason? After a checkup, she claimed the vet had misdiagnosed her cat's personality. She insisted her formerly sweet kitty had returned with a surly and uncooperative attitude, and she wanted the vet to pay for its bad mood. 86. A third-degree burn on your tongue from a freshly nuked Hot Pocket is a painful rite of passage. For one man, it was a payday. He took the company to court, claiming the snack was defectively hot and lacked an adequate warning. The real warning should have been about suing over your own impatience. 87. A man once meticulously timed a traffic light on his daily commute and decided it was taking too long to turn green. He then demanded the city compensate him for his accumulated lost seconds, arguing their traffic management was costing him money. He was literally billing the government for his own wait time. 88. The gentle, tinkling sound of wind chimes can be deeply relaxing, unless you're the neighbor who dragged the owner to court for incessant and torturous sonic pollution. He wanted monetary damages for the crime of pleasant background noise. 89. Being rated on a dating app sounds brutal. One man took it personally, taking the app developers to court, not because of bad dates, but because his profile received a low attractiveness score. He claimed it was a conspiracy against his good looks that caused him severe emotional harm. 90. A moviegoer demanded damages from a theater chain after his extra buttery popcorn dripped and stained his designer jeans. He wasn't just asking for a cleaning fee. He was claiming the buttery topping was a foreseeable hazard they failed to warn him about. 91. After receiving a fresh set of acrylic nails, a woman promptly filed a complaint against the salon. Her reason? The nails were dangerously sharp, and she had scratched herself. She was literally demanding compensation for getting exactly what she had paid for. 92. A vegan in Australia once took his neighbor to court over the smell of their backyard barbecue. He claimed the scent of grilled meat and fish was a form of aromatic assault that prevented him from enjoying his own yard. The court did not find his argument well done. 93. An amateur jogger was furious that his new, expensive running shoes didn't make him any faster. He took the shoe company to task, accusing them of false advertising because he still wasn't outrunning anyone on his block. The shoes were fine. His expectations were not. 94. After receiving a hideous sweater for his birthday, a man tried to sue his aunt for the humiliation of wearing it at dinner. He claimed it caused emotional distress and lasting family tension. The judge ruled that questionable fashion is not a tort. 95. Being asked to be quiet in a library is pretty standard. But one man, after being kicked out for talking too loudly, decided to fight back. He sued the library for violating his First Amendment right to free speech inside a building dedicated to silence. 96. A tourist demanded a full refund from a national park because he didn't see any bears during his visit. He argued the park's brochure, which featured a picture of a bear, constituted a binding promise of wildlife sightings. Apparently, nature is now on a performance contract. 97. A man sued his barber claiming the small talk during his haircut was psychologically damaging. He argued the awkward silence breakers about weather and sports left him traumatized. The court, however, ruled that chatting with clients isn't a crime. 98. A woman filed a claim against a candle company because its ocean breeze-scented candle did not, in fact, smell exactly like the ocean. She accused them of committing olfactory fraud. Her nose was disappointed, and she wanted someone to pay. 99. In a truly baffling move, a man tried to sue the Merriam-Webster dictionary. His claim? That the dictionary was responsible for the spread of offensive words, simply by defining them. He was essentially suing knowledge itself. 100. After 4 years of college, a graduate took her alma mater to court for $75,000. Not for a bad grade, but because her liberal arts degree hadn't landed her a high-paying job. She demanded a full tuition refund for her useless education. 101. And for our grand finale of petty grievances, a man took a bank to small claims court. His earth-shattering complaint? The free pen chained to the counter ran out of ink while he was trying to fill out a deposit slip, causing him unnecessary frustration and delay. And that's all, folks. Proof that a little self-control is the only thing standing between an eye roll and a 7-figure lawsuit. Now it's your turn. I don't care about your favorite case. I want your pettiest, most irrational legal fantasy. What's the tiniest injustice that made you think, I should sue? Drop it in the comments. This courtroom is open for your most unhinged confessions. Your secret's safe with the internet. And if you loved this stroll through legal madness, hit like and subscribe for more proof that reality is stranger than fiction.